I'll tell you guys a story about how my childhood, I don't want to say my childhood stories are not told the right way. I just feel like there's a lot of misinformation about my life. And I think I've said this on chat before, but the weirdest thing for me is having authors write books about my life. And I'm obviously still on earth, but they're writing books as if they have done one-on-one, sit downs with me, interviews, so they're doing a timeline of my life that does not coincide with the truth, right? It's not even connected to the truth all the time. So when I was growing up, I was born in Melbourne, Australia. I spent about a year and a half there. My dad played for the Bullying Boomers. My mom and my dad got it on. They did what they did. I was born a few months later. My mom ended up getting sick. She had to fly back to the West Coast in America. So that was like by Washington area. She was raised out there by Port Orchard and Bremerton. And if you know anything about Washington or like nearby Seattle, she went to Lincoln High School and had an incredible upbringing, and then ended up moving to, going to Boston University, meeting my dad, right? But when my mom got sick when we were in Australia, she went home first. My dad and some of my family members had to kind of gather around us to make sure we were supported. My dad had to pick up me in Asia. He left Australia very suddenly. So we went back to New York, went back to our old family apartment, Bronx, New York, Mitchell Projects, look it up, Mitchell Project Housing, Bronx, New York, look it up. That's where I spent a large portion of my childhood. And my dad really created an environment for me that really reflected morals, really reflected love, respect, in them old school ways. You know what I mean? Like my whole entire childhood was built on old school ways. If you would mess up, you would get your ass whipped. Like that belt was coming out. You know what I'm saying? I got my ass whipped a few times. I wasn't always perfect. What I learned from that, especially growing up younger, was that my dad was going to do the best for me and Asia, my sister, all the time. And my mom, unfortunately, overdosed, and she had organ failure when she was, not too much older than my dad. Maybe she passed in 1996. So I was 4 years old, and it was hurtful for not just me, but my whole entire family. And it changed our life forever. My dad lost his wife, and then not too long after that, my grandmother passed away as well from an overdose. And we basically had to pick up the pieces, figure things out from there. So, growing up, my childhood, I wouldn't say was hard. It just was difficult because to connect with people on a deeper level, you're dealing with that much trauma as a kid. You don't really know how to express it. It's tough to make friends. It's tough to be normal. Losing your grandmother or your mom or somebody that you love to something that traumatic like drugs or addiction, it's a tough thing to talk about. When I was growing up, I was very embarrassed because I was weak-minded, and I don't even say weak-minded. I think I was just, my heart was still feeling for them, and I wanted to protect who they are and their image. They are still incredible people. They did great things on this earth. They just ran into something that beat them down, unfortunately. An addiction can do that. So, shout out to all you guys that have dealt with a similar situation or situations or circumstances. I want to let you know I feel for you. So my childhood, started in Australia, and then going back to America, going to the Bronx, and then my dad moving us to Jersey, to Newark, New Jersey. If you're really from Jersey, a lot of people from outside of Jersey, they don't really know that we have a lingo. We have our own style of speaking. We have our own thing going on. It's Newark, New Jersey.
Shout out
it's
Bergen
a little
County.
slang. I grew up from third grade on. After I left Newark, I went to West Orange, and then I met my best friend Brett back there. Go ahead, Brett, Panda Brett. This is my best friend Brett. Grew up together and had a great, can I tell him, bully to victim type of relationship initially. Like when I first moved to West Orange, this was the guy that I was trying to bully, unfortunately. Go to Brett. This was the guy I was trying to bully. This is why I stand up for having a kind heart so much now that I'm older, because when you bully people, you have no idea that they are dealing with things at home or have a lot of issues that they haven't figured out yet. Or yourself internally. I had a lot of issues going on. It was me. So W Brett in the chat, man, for giving me a chance to be his friend as we got older, because I definitely felt bad as I got older, but it wasn't I wanted to be his friend because I felt bad. It was just we really connected. And I think I don't want to say I think. Did you forgive me for that?
We still working on it.
Did you forgive me for that, Brett?
We still working on it, but yes,
we still working on it, Brett. How many years now?
Hey,
that was like,
hey, chat. That's why I get all the free stuff now. I still hang that over his head.
Well, shout out To all you kids that are no longer bullies or thought about bullying, you didn't, or you saw somebody bullied and you stood up for them, that in itself is just, it's not right, man. I was in 3rd grade and it continued on to what, like 5th grade, 6th grade?
Yeah, probably.
I tell my dad this all the time. Me and Brett became friends, but I was so driven and obsessed with basketball that I don't think that I realized that that's all I wanted to do all day, every day, was just play basketball. So when I met Brett and me and him became closer, he was like the epitome of opposites attract. He liked sports, but I was like in love with basketball since we met, you know. So when we became friends, I think he gave me a very introspective look to just relaxing and learning how to enjoy Saturdays with just eating cereal and watching TV and playing video games, but also getting outside and just taking walks and doing arts and crafts or just being kids, you know, and just trying to push the limits or push the boundaries. So a lot of it was built on how I had to change and look at myself, but also Brett had to change and go through his moments. And I think he and I have really built the bond where, you know, not only are we West Orange brothers and we represent Jersey, but we feel like represent a bigger scale of creators that come from our small township that are staying close together and also want to give back in a bigger way, you know, giving back, not just donating, but showing who you are, you know, whether I'm at West Orange High School doing runs or whether I'm in, you know, Llewellyn Park with some of my neighbors trying to get to know them, or I'm in old gyms that I frequently visited, whether it be the YMCA in Livingston, whether it be St. Pat's, whether it be going to Montclair Kimberly Academy, whether it be going down, you know, to Verona, whether it be going to South Orange Park. South Orange, right, represents such a big portion of my life, man. I spent so much time there grinding. Like, chat, you guys really have no idea how much time I spent there. I was biking all the time there. All the time. Walking there. Brett, how many times do you think I went there in the summertime? Bradley Buckets, you know I'm fucking with you, bro.
At least twice a day.
I spent so much time there, right? That's what built my armor for the NBA, if that makes sense. Like playing in the park all the time, I played against anybody and everybody. Obviously the levels changed, but I learned to build my armor, my resilience, and my attitude and mentality out there in the park. A lot of kids, right, they don't get the fair treatment towards them about them not going outside. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, the adults say that the younger generation, y'all don't go outside at all. But I'm letting you know right now, you gotta be outside to be with the greats. I am one of the greatest of all time at what I do. I don't need any validation from anybody else. This is something I say for myself. I'm one of the greatest of all time at what I do. I've put in a lot of work, put in a lot of time. That's fine, right? But it started with building the armor for my craft outdoors, you know, and building that respect for opponents outdoors. If you go outdoors and play, you might get shin splints. Yeah, you might get some knee pain. Yeah, you might fall on the floor. Yeah, you might scrape yourself up. Yeah, you might take a bad fall. You might get hit with an elbow, right? You might get hit with, you know, something that you weren't really ready for. But being outside in the park and getting knocked down prepares you for all that stuff. You know, and being where I am now and working hard, I just want to share that with everybody. Like, you got to get outside your comfort zone, man. And in all aspects, right? But if you're trying to be great at your craft, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, being trash at something. How many of y'all are trash at what y'all do? Like, and I don't mean trash. I mean, it's like you're a student, right? You start on day one, like, and nobody wants to be trash at something. I was so ass at basketball for maybe a year. I was so trash at basketball for more than a year. I'm about to tear up. I was on a B team. I wasn't the first one picked all the time unless I was like in Jersey and I was like popping shit in school. But I wasn't even nationally known. I wasn't even known locally amongst when do you think I started becoming more known in Jersey?
Probably
like 8th grade, 9th grade, or after I left MK, or when I went to MK.
I think probably like your freshman, sophomore year, your blood started getting really.
Yeah, I wasn't like one of the most. I'm trying to tell you, like, I was seen as just I was a decent player, bro. I was just a role player, man. I played a role for a long period of time before, and I play a role now, but I'm saying I played like the 3rd, 4th option role for a while. I'm serious, y'all. I'm serious. I didn't get better at the craft until sophomore, junior year. That's when I made the jump. I started playing against better competition. I started against, being more confident in myself. But when I say trash at basketball, I don't mean like, oh my gosh, I'm averaging 0 points or I'm averaging 25 points, right? It's just the feel of the game, the confidence. Most crafts, right? Most work labor forces or most work environments, the most confident or the most sure of themselves, the most certain people carry that with them, right? And I was trying to learn what that was like. So if you were in my shoes, right, at a young age, or I'm in your shoes at a young age, or you're even my age now, 32, going on 33, or you're 50, like the advice that I would give to myself, right, is don't stop refreshing yourself, with new ideas and new ways to reach other people and resources to use to become better. I used my resources in Jersey, where I went from Montclair Kimberly Academy. If you guys want to look it up, that's in Montclair, New Jersey. I spent almost 2 years there. I went to private school. It cost about 25 grand a year to go there. I did not fit in at all when I first got there. It was probably like 6 black kids in the whole entire school, maybe 8 black kids in the whole entire school. It probably was more, and I'm over exaggerating or under saying the number, but it wasn't that many black kids, bro. I did not go to all black school. The diversity, DEI, or all that stuff, I don't know if it was in play because of all the political stuff that's going on right now. But when I went to school, it was totally different, and my dad damn sure wasn't paying 25 grand a year. We could barely afford that shit. So me going there and fitting in, I'm seeing all the kids coming with their Range Rovers, their Hummers, their Mercedes. Parents got buku money over in Montclair, a lot of good kids, but a lot of spoiled ass kids. And me having the dream of playing basketball, you guys got to understand, wealthy individuals in the world don't necessarily see sports as the most, like, what would you say, Brett? It's not just wealthy people. I would say a lot of people see sports as it could end up in a dead end and you don't have any backup plans.
Yeah,
or sports back, like I'm talking about early in the 2010s or 2000. Like basketball was not this popularized sport where you're making 50 million, you have a chance to make 40 million, 30 million nowadays. So me telling my friends that go to MK, like, hey, I want to make it to the NBA, they're like, well, I didn't really connect with any of them. My dad was a financial evaluator, a bonds evaluator over there at Reuters. He was big into the stock market. My mother, or my stepmom, Shatalia, was big into sales and marketing and radio. So I had 2 parents in the house that had stable jobs, but at the same time living, amongst private school kids or wealthier kids or kids that come from wealthy families. It was a different conversation day to day. Their care was different. So I picked up some of those habits on just like, I gotta relax. Like, I'm not really having all of my cultural connections, but I'm learning about this is what, a lot of people say, you're learning about the real world. And private school is far from the real world, but it does give you a viewpoint on some of the racial constructs that are out there in the world. You know what I mean? Of course I dealt with racism. Of course I dealt with certain bigotry or certain bigots, or I dealt with people that didn't like me. And by the way, most of my time in school was spent with different cultures, different kids that came from different backgrounds. So they were Jewish, they were Muslim, they were Christian, they identified as African American, or identified as Nigerian, or they identified as German, or they identified as some type of European or African. So they had their nationalities down packed, right? And this is how I grew up. West Orange is the epitome of what is it? How many diverse cultures of people do we have in West Orange?
Man, we got them all. We got everything.
We got them all in West Orange. So,
rainbow.
When people were coming at me and calling me all types of names over the last few years, and they still try to do it, right? People still try to come at me and call me, oh, he hates these people. Oh, he hates these type of people, which is not the truth at all. You know what I mean? And that's why I felt so hurt initially when I dealt with all that stuff over the past. I'm over here not even looking at child chat, but that's why I felt when I dealt with some of that irrational thinking or irrational feelings that was coming towards me. You know how many people were coming at me for the last few years over stuff that I'm just like, you're judging me, but you have no idea about who I truly am. And I think social media does that, where it allows people to kind of like say whatever they want, and then it can hold value. Without certain boundaries that I put up for myself, I would not be able to have peace of mind and understand what violence is, whether that be racial violence, whether it be religious violence, whether it be verbal, physical, emotional violence that's brought upon people. I had to learn that and what that was like and how to deal with that. So shout out to all you guys that are standing up for your beliefs, but also have a big heart for all of humanity, man. Like, don't let people judge you and tell you who you are when they're not in your room, they're not in your shoes, they're not around you at all. All they do is just base their judgments off of Twitter, off of Instagram, or what the media says. And we all know you can't trust the media. Like, you can't trust a lot of media sources. I don't want to say you can't trust the media, but you can't trust a lot of media sources and their personnel, bro. That I've been there and been through that situation where you try to buddy up next to media personnel and, you know, they feel like you're their friend. Or you're on the opposite side, you kind of just avoid them. You know, I'm fence sitting even on that sense. Like, I like to be cool with everybody, but I'm not fence sitting because I have beliefs. But I also am not going to allow people to just talk shit about me and not see me somewhere.